Supporters claim they were attending mostly peaceful protests and deny any conspiracy. These people are insane. That little situation at the detention center, okay, in Prairie Land, in Texas, where what is it? One Alvarado cop was shot in the neck. Fortunately, he survived, thank God for that. One cop was shot in the neck, and then 20 to 30 rounds were fired at correctional officers at the ICE facility. That was just a peaceful protest. It was a peaceful protest. What do you mean? Like, they're all innocent. All of these women, they were just attending a peaceful protest. That's all. With AR style rifles and body armor and phone jammers. And it's just a peaceful protest. What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure that you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today we have to head on over to Dallas. Why? Because recently, I believe it was as of 6:40 a.m. this morning today, there was a sniper shooting into an ICE field office in Dallas, Texas. Once again, I believe that's 6:40 a.m. this morning. The man shot from an elevated position. It's not clear yet if it was from inside of the apartment through the window or from the rooftop, but he shot into what's called, let me get this correctly because I didn't know what this was at first. He shot into what's called the Sally Port. I never heard of that term prior to now, the Sally Port, but I'll put a photo of it up. Essentially, it's just an entranceway of the ICE field office. It's an open air space with no roof on it. Essentially, it's just the gate that opens and closes that allows ICE vehicles to go in and go out, like what we've seen at ICE field offices and detention centers across the country with DNC lunatics protesting in front of them, right? The only thing that's separating the protesters from the ICE agents inside is just that gate that opens and closes. But once again, there is no roof. So if you're at an elevated position or on top of a rooftop, you can look right down into the ICE facility, at least before they enter the actual building, and just go to work. And that's what happened today. The individual, the shooter, the sniper, he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So he took himself out, and in the process of attempting to take out ICE agents, he missed everything and ended up shooting 3 detainees, two of which have passed away. And as far as motive goes, as you can see here from Reuters, Dallas shooter wrote anti-ICE on unused bullet in attack on immigration office, officials say. So this is very reminiscent of the shooter, right? The assassin that took out Charlie Kirk, who wrote on the bullet casings, anti-fascist and catch this fascist, and he kept writing fascist, 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 these DNC talking points on his bullet casings. As you can see here, once again, this isn't Fox News, this isn't the New York Post, this is Reuters. Reuters is very friendly to the DNC, as we all know, and Reuters has confirmed that the Dallas shooter wrote anti-ICE on unused bullets in the attack on immigration office, right? Here's another thing too, before I get into some more information outside of this. I was reading this People article, right? The article from People magazine online. And as I scroll down, man, I come to the comment section here. And you seriously, you can't help this kind of stupid. So you see this here from this woman named Sarah, allegedly. We don't know who this actually is, right? Could be a man that's playing games. But the comment reads, "Thank you, Trump, for making this the most violent, hateful, divisive time of my entire life." Then there was a response to that from somebody named M, who wrote, "Couldn't agree more, Sarah. This is a very scary and sad time for non-MAGA people. I'm sad they got us into this mess. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot help this level of stupidity. You can't help people that are deranged to this level. We've seen 2 failed assassination attempts on Trump from obvious deranged DNC lunatics. We watched an assassination occur live against Charlie Kirk from a DNC deranged lunatic. And now we have this here, and we have all the confirmation that we need in terms of who carried out this attack on the ICE facility, despite the fact that they missed the intended target. He wrote anti-ICE on the bullets. Yet you have these deranged lunatics saying, well, thank you very much, Trump. You've created such a violent time in America. Sarah, if that's who you actually are, it's you guys committing the violence. It's you. You can't help this type of stupid. You cannot reason with this type of stupid. You're looking at people on your side engaging in violence, and then you turn around and blame Trump. It's not MAGA people that are engaging in this level of political violence. It's those who have been infected with Trump derangement syndrome, essentially, that are doing this. Yet you're blaming Trump for people on essentially your side that are committing the violence. How is that Trump's fault? When on your side, you refuse to tell your people to tone down the rhetoric. At this same ICE facility, not too long ago, there was a credible bomb threat over there. Okay. So this place has been under, watch for a while now in terms of an attack. And now we have it finally manifesting. But what I want to do right now concerning the bomb threat, because a lot of you might not have known about that, I want to play what Trisha McLaughlin had to say about that as she, brought that to light. So let's get into that video clip next.
I see.
Okay, so Brooke Taylor confirms, our correspondent out of Dallas, says the following. I'll just read it. ICE Dallas also now on the record. No agents or officers hurt. The shooter shot detainees on way. Our crew, rather, is en route to the scene there. Trish, when you talk about a field office, what happens there?
There's processing that happens there. Of course, this is where our brave men and women of ICE work. But again, I do remind viewers that it was just a month ago to the date that there was a viable bomb threat here. So this location, it looks like it's been targeted, and we don't know how long this individual has been planning this act. It looks like he could have been watching to look at the processing and see what happens on a day-to-day basis at this Dallas field office. But this is all answers that Homeland Security investigation is going to get down to the bottom of.
So like she was saying, and I would agree with her, in my opinion, this guy was probably just, watching this place for a while now, just seeing, as they would say, clocking, right? He was clocking the ICE facility for a while now, just, seeing their routine, what time they come in and out and just how they do things. The only issue is that this idiot is a horrible shot, which I get. Well, it's a good thing he's a horrible shot because no ICE agents were hit. But at the same time, nonetheless, I'm not celebrating in any way, shape, form, or fashion the detainees being hit and having their lives lost. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not with that at all. And that's horrible, right? Those men, whoever they were, regardless of if they were criminals or not, what they deserved to be was deported, right? Because the individuals that were detained, we don't know who they are yet or the crimes that they committed. They deserve to be deported and kicked out the country, but not to be, splattered in the middle of an ICE facility by a DNC lunatic. That's not what they deserved, right? That's not what they deserved at all. Because once again, we don't even know who they are and what their crime was. Were they MS-13? Were they Trinidad Agua? Or were they just those who came illegally but hadn't committed any crime outside of the crime of coming into the country illegally? We don't know that information yet, right? But what we do know is that these DNC lunatics need to tone down the rhetoric. And that is something that they refuse to do. And they refuse to acknowledge the fact that the violence is coming from their rhetoric. Going back to the comment that I read earlier, and I'm glad that I remembered to say this, when they're looking at violence coming from their side, the way that it is, and the way their brain processes it tells them that it's Trump's fault that we're doing what we're doing as far as their side is concerned. It really goes to show you how desperately they actually want it to be MAGA that's doing it. And they're so desperate to have their derangement justified by MAGA being the ones carrying these acts out, that when it's their own that's carrying it out, They just blame MAGA anyway. It's truly insane. That is the definition of insanity when it comes to these people. So now what I want to do next, going back to toning down the rhetoric, I want to speak on this. I didn't have an opportunity to address this at the moment. It was, I believe it was sometime last week, but Gavin Newsom's Twitter team, right? This is Gavin Newsom's account, Governor Newsom press office. I'll make it full screen for you guys. He put this tweet out a week after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, in which he stated, Kristi Noem is going to have a bad day today. You're welcome, America. To which Bill Saley's responded to that, we have zero tolerance for direct or implicit threats against government officials. I've referred this matter to the Secret Service and requested a full threat assessment. Now, Newsom's team responded essentially by stating that, they weren't talking about any type of violence. What they were speaking on was the toothless bill that Newsom signed into law, in which in the state of California, federal law enforcement aren't allowed to wear masks anymore, which is something that they cannot enforce because the federal government has supremacy over states, right? States cannot dictate what the federal government does. So it's a toothless, nonsensical bill. And they're claiming that that's what they were talking about. We were talking about the anti-mask bill against ICE. I'm not giving them that kind of grace. I don't believe that that's what Newsom and his team meant at all. As far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, this was just dog whistling. In my opinion, you are sending out a very clear message to whoever you are sending it out to carry out whatever it is that you want them to carry out. At this day and age, and at this point in time, with everything that we're seeing as it pertains to violence towards the Trump administration and any and everybody associated with it, you don't get the kind of grace that you might normally get, in which one would look at that and say, oh, well, they were trolling, or it was a very insensitive troll in poor taste in light of Charlie Kirk's assassination, because once again, this was no more than 7 days afterwards. No. This was not an insensitive troll. This was not a joke. Once again, I'm saying, in my opinion, this was clear dog whistling at this point, man. I mean, what are we talking about here? What would possess anybody to write something like that? Kristi Noem is going to have a bad day today. You're welcome, America. What would possess somebody to write something like that? It's not a joke. That wasn't a troll. It's dog whistling. Once again, in my opinion. Now, what I want to do next is I want to let Kristi Noem speak on it, because she was on Fox News, I believe it was a day or so ago, and she actually addressed this threat, which is exactly what it was. So I'll transition to that video next, and let's hear what she had to say.
Kristi Noem. Well, let's get your reaction to bad day for you.
Well, it was cryptic, and it was really menacing. I would say, Sean, it immediately panicked my family and friends. Within, I would say, a couple of minutes of that being posted, I started to get text messages and phone calls, family, my kids saying, "Are you okay, Mom? Are you fine?" They know the threats that I've had. They know the threats that they've had, the things that have happened to them because of politicians like this that say things and somebody grabs onto them that has an agenda, the cartels and criminals that have threatened our family already. So when you get a post like that by a governor, immediately, my staff and family think, what is going on? What does he mean? And we're trying to figure it out. So, this is a day and age where we've always known that words matter, but there's been real consequences that we have realized that have happened to incredible people like Charlie that we'll have to live with forever. And I hope we all learn from that. I hope we all learn that it's time to start listening to each other, having civil discourse, and stop ridiculous, irresponsible posts like Governor Newsom put out there.
And also, too, another thing that she would go on to speak about that I was aware of, but I just never had an opportunity to report on, is that she doesn't, and Kristi Noem and her family, they don't live at their home anymore for the moment. They live in military housing on a military base somewhere, because the doxing and the threats have gotten so severe, you can say, for lack of better words, right? They've gotten so intense and apparently are very much so real that she can't stay at her home anymore. Her family can't live at their home anymore. So they're currently living in military housing on a military base where they can be protected, and it's all from the rhetoric of the radical left. It's all from their rhetoric, and it's very disturbing and alarming. Now, as a quick update on the Prairieland shooting, remember on the 4th of July, there was an attempted ambush attack on ICE officers at the Prairieland ICE facility in Texas, to which they didn't shoot an ICE officer, but they did end up shooting a local police officer who responded to calls of vandalism. Here's a quick update for you guys concerning that situation. Let me drag this down and pull this up here. Check this out. 6 women arraigned in Texas shooting of ICE agents. 6 women were just arraigned in federal court for their alleged roles in the July 4th ambush shooting at the Prairieland ICE Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas. Prosecutors say the women helped stage a fake vandalism call to lure officers into a trap, where the Alvarado cop was shot in the neck and correctional officers were sprayed with 20 to 30 rounds. Investigators recovered AR-style rifles, radios, body armor, and a phone signal jammer for the suspects' vehicles. According to the federal complaint, some wore black tactical gear and split off from a larger group that had launched fireworks and tagged property with graffiti. If convicted, the women face federal charges, including attempted murder, conspiracy, and firearm offenses. Supporters claim they were attending mostly peaceful protests and deny any conspiracy. These people are insane. That little situation at the detention center, okay, in Prairieland, in Texas, where what is it? One Alvarado cop was shot in the neck. Fortunately, he survived, thank God for that. One cop was shot in the neck, and then 20 to 30 rounds were fired at correctional officers at the ICE facility. That was just a peaceful protest. It was a peaceful protest. What do you mean? Like, they're all innocent. All of these women, they were just attending a peaceful protest. That's all. With AR style rifles and body armor and phone jammers. And it's just a peaceful protest. You can't make this stuff up. They called it a peaceful protest. Wow. And we'll just end it there. With all that being said, that does it for today's news. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And do not forget to follow me on Telegram. That is extremely and profoundly important that you do so that we can stay connected and you always get your notifications and circumvent YouTube nonsense. The link to my Telegram in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. And to the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.